So, friends, as Donald Trump vows to use his presidential powers to seek revenge on his enemies, President Joe Biden chooses the rule of law rather than using his presidential powers to help his son out of a jam. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, Donald Trump is vowing to abuse the powers of the presidency if he's reelected, to weaponize the Department of Justice, to punish his perceived enemies, to seek revenge. Look at this new reporting. This from HuffPost. Headline, Trump says revenge can be justified in latest threat to political enemies. And that article begins, former President Donald Trump reiterated his calls to punish his political enemies in a new interview that aired Thursday, saying revenge can be justified, following his conviction on all counts during his hush money trial last week. Trump spoke at length about his criminal indictments and his competing campaign for the presidency. At one point, Trump said if he returns to the White House, he would likely have so much to do to repair the country, he wouldn't have time to get even, but he added, well, revenge does take time, and sometimes revenge can be justified. I have to be honest, sometimes it can. And of course, we all know that Donald Trump has used and abused his presidential pardon power, including pardoning some of his own criminal associates, like Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, Paul Manafort. And let's not forget, he pardoned his son-in-law, Jared Kushner's father, and dozens and dozens and dozens of others. Now, compare what Donald Trump does, vowing revenge, abusing the presidential pardon power. Compare that to what President Joe Biden just said about how he approaches the charges that have been brought against his son, Hunter. This from NBC News. Headline, President Joe Biden says he will not pardon his son, Hunter Biden, if he's convicted on gun-related charges. And that article begins, President Joe Biden told ABC News in an interview Thursday that he will accept whatever a jury decides in his son Hunter Biden's criminal trial, and that he will not use his presidential power to pardon him if he's convicted. Biden made his brief statements on his son's historic trial in an interview with ABC News anchor David Muir in Normandy, where Biden and other dignitaries were taking part in a service to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day, a turning point for the Allied forces in World War II. Asked if he would rule out a pardon for his son, who's facing 3 federal gun-related charges in court in Delaware, Biden answered simply, yes. Asked if he would accept the outcome of the jury trial, a first for an offspring of a sitting president, he again replied, yes. The White House had previously said Biden would not use his pardon power on Hunter Biden, who's also facing a trial on federal tax charges in September. Presidents have the power to grant pardons in federal cases, but not state cases. Quote, I've been very clear, the president is not going to pardon his son, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters in December. In a statement when the trial started Monday, President Biden said, as the president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases, but as a dad, I have boundless love for my son, confidence in him, and respect for his strength. Our family has been through a lot together, and Jill and I are going to continue to be there for Hunter and our family with our love and support. The First Lady has attended the trial most of this week, along with Hunter Biden's wife, Melissa Cohen Biden, and various other family members. Now, friends, I had the pleasure of being asked a question the day that President Biden spoke at Normandy. I was asked the question by Lawrence O'Donnell, the anchor of The Last Word on MSNBC, and it was more of a political question. I'm a legal analyst. I usually get the legal questions when I'm on air. But he played a clip of President Biden's comments at Normandy, and he asked about the comparison generally, about how President Biden deals with the rule of law versus how Donald Trump deals with the rule of law. And I was so happy to field that question because it gave me the opportunity to make this point, which I'm not sure a lot of the American people appreciate. When Joe Biden was elected and he took office, ordinarily what an incoming president does is they ask for the resignation of all U.S. attorneys. Why? Because they want to appoint U.S. attorneys to do the sort of legal work on behalf of the American people, U.S. attorneys that share the president's goals and priorities, the president's vision for the criminal justice system, how it should operate, perhaps how it should be reformed. And so ordinarily the incoming president asks all U.S. attorneys who had been appointed by his predecessor, in this case Donald Trump, Republican U.S. attorneys, to submit their resignation, and then the president will appoint the U.S. attorneys that he believes will be right for the job. But when Joe Biden took office, the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, David Weiss, who had been appointed by Donald Trump, David Weiss, a Republican, was in the process of investigating President Biden's son, Hunter, for years, looking to see whether there would be any criminal charges that should be brought against Hunter Biden. And rather than sort of follow the normal procedure of asking for David Weiss's resignation, together with all other U.S. attorneys, President Biden said, no, I don't want to be perceived as interfering in an ongoing investigation of my son. So I'm going to leave a Republican-appointed U.S. attorney, a Republican, David Weiss, in place, somebody who had been appointed by Donald Trump, to continue the criminal investigation of my own son, rather than be perceived as interfering in it. Does that show the true measure of the man? Heck, Donald Trump pardons his son-in-law's daddy. And President Joe Biden wouldn't even do something that could be perceived or misperceived as interfering or meddling in an ongoing criminal investigation of his own son, even though he had every right as president to ask for that U.S. attorney's resignation and appoint a U.S. attorney of his choosing. Joe Biden said, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because as much as I love and support my son, I have an allegiance to the rule of law. In fact, I have a constitutional duty to take care that the laws of the country be faithfully executed. So I'm going to leave a Republican appointee in place to continue to see through to fruition the investigation of my son, Hunter Biden. Doesn't that show you the true measure of the man? An allegiance to the rule of law, a loyalty to the Constitution and to our democracy. Love and support for his son, yes, but Joe Biden chose the rule of law. And of course, now Joe Biden is on record as saying, in the event of a conviction, he will not exercise his presidential pardon power as he has a right to. He will not pardon his son in the event of conviction. He will respect the jury's verdict, and he will uphold the rule of law. He will continue to take care that the laws of the nation be faithfully executed. Why? Well, because it is crystal clear that to President Joe Biden, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.